In terms of the substance of the discussion at the moment, we've got Senator Patterson and Julian Leeser, your a fellow member in the House of Representatives. They're going to hold a news conference, I'm told, shortly about the issue Mike Burgess spoke about, the ASIO boss, at the weekend, where he said that they draw a distinction between those who have rhetorical support of Hamas and those who provide monetary or physical support of that terrorist group. Again, this is a question without notice because that news conference, we've just been told about it. But do you have any views, concerns about people being granted visas with any level of support for Hamas?
Look, I'm actually writing to Mike Burgess myself on this issue because, I listened to what he said on the weekend, and I know, my community, there's a great deal of concern about, supporters of Hamas, and what and any sort of incitement to violence and bringing impact on social cohesion here in this country. We are all deeply concerned, I think, by what people are going through overseas, but we also need to make sure that we are, keeping ourselves and our community safe. And so I'm seeking further clarification and seeking understanding, how those visa applications are currently being managed as well.
Because obviously security has to be
look, security is a huge issue.
main priority.
It's a top priority for all Australians, and so absolute priority for me and my community.
The other issue that you've been focusing on this week, I saw your question on the CFMEU. What's your assessment of where the government's at on this? Do you think that they should be allowed to get these administrators in, or should there be a quick Senate committee looking at it?
Look, I want the administrators to go in really quickly. If there's going to be a Senate inquiry, then it's got to be a short one, because I think it's really important that we start action on the CFMEU right now, and it's clear that the Fair Work process would just not be fast enough. But the point I made yesterday, and the point I'm continuing to make to the government on this, is that just appointing an administrator is not enough. We have had 3 royal commissions in this topic. We have had decades of problems of criminality in this area, and it's got to stop. And it's time to get a robust body that does have support of the unions, of industry, and of government that can oversee this industry into the future.
And should it be a body that has more than just industrial powers? That there should be an ability to pursue criminal charges as well. You look at these reports we've seen recently, and they are hugely concerning, as you've argued in recent days. There needs to be a criminal capacity as well to be able to prosecute those sorts of activities.
Yeah, look, I think that we do need the police to be on the front foot here. And speaking to academics in this area, one of the concerns is, on a work site, it's unclear, is this a work issue? Is it an industrial issue, in which case, police sometimes will come and then go. And so there is this lack of clarity in terms of what is the role of the police, what is the role of Fair Work. And I think it is really important to bring the police into this space as well. But I will be also putting forward an amendment on the bill on that administrator bill, because I want to make sure that if the administrator is appointing new people into the CFMEU, that these are just and proper people to serve, in a union, because we have had some people in the unions who, frankly, would not meet any sort of test in terms of the right sort of characters to be leading a union.
I know Wentworth, there's a perception of that seat, your seat, being one of the wealthiest areas, but there are a lot of your constituents I know who are struggling with mortgages too, like many other Australians, and the challenge of cost of living.
Yeah.
You've got the wages number out today, slightly above expectations for the year. But overall, this remains a precarious balancing act right now, doesn't it? For, not just for the government, the RBA too.
Yeah, it does. Look, I think it is a tough time, and I think you're absolutely right. It's people in my community, some of them may have bought bigger houses, but frankly, they've got very big mortgages. I also have 45% of my community are renters, and we know that that's a really big part of the community who is hurting right now. So I think people are on tenterhooks right now on those RBA decisions.
And in terms of the government contribution, do you have a view on that as to whether the spending has hurt or helped the RBA in its efforts?
Look, I feel that, federal and state government spending, I wish had been lower, because I think that would have, helped in terms of the fight on inflation. I recognise, people do need that cost of living relief, so, I don't begrudge them that. But I've been really clear saying, look, I feel that the government could have pulled back on infrastructure spending over the last year and a half to try and reduce that push for things that we didn't need right now, because everything that we do right now adds fuel to the fire. The other side is obviously there's demand, but there's also supply. Because if you can improve the productivity of our businesses, it actually is less pressure on inflation. And so again, this is another area where I feel the government should go further in terms of trying to boost productivity in our businesses.
Allegra Spender, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Kieran.